You are listening to Fun City Radio. Fun City Radio and FunCityRadio.com.
Why me name know your man because when my uncle now end up in the hospital, like me say they schedule to put off here.
I've got time if you've got time. Success Radio.
The SVG Association of Ottawa, in collaboration with Team The Hill News Network, the Ultimate Five Band, invite you to a Community Pulse Forum. Topic, the transitioning of Vincy Mars, a dialogue on the challenges, opportunities, way forward, plus a question and answer period. Sunday, 27th August, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a very talented panel. Host Gary Peters of the Ultimate Five Band. Live streaming on The Hill News Network, Kankadi Radio, Success Radio, Fun City Radio, YouTube The Hill News Network. Join the panel via Zoom at svgottawassociation@gmail.com. It is this Sunday, August 27th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's have a community chat on Vincy Mars.
All right, well, welcome back. Bring the program. We have the last segment here. And after that, we'll bring the program, the discussion to an end. In Vincy Mars 2023, it was noticeable that there was a fall in attendance to most of the organized events in terms of the shows, most of them by CDC, as compared to the rise in patronage at some of these private events. Slated for representation of personnel in this category, we had Dr. Brown, Rodney Small, Karen Vera, and Jim Lewis. I don't think we have two of the persons, they are no longer with us in-house in terms of the persons who would have been on the panel, but I think we still do have Jim. And do we have Dr. Brown? Is he still here? Regardless.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great, fantastic. So we'll have a shortened dialogue in the interest of time, but we want to get your perspectives on this aspect of what we saw happening in Vincy Mars. That is the waning of patronage, persons going out to the CDC events as compared to the private events. So I don't know, maybe you'd like to take the lead on this, Dr. Brown? Maybe you can start by telling us if you had an event or what inspired that.
Ah, boy. So, well, for me, the event was something that I had experienced from a different carnival. But in my estimation, I don't think we have had an event similar to it here. I think there was an attempt, but it was more of just a morning event, a morning party. With the one I did, it was more of a breakfast style with early morning where you're seeing the sunrise. It's a different time, a different feel, something different, a unique feel. And also in terms of the cast, to try and get someone who, you know, Vincent would more or less gravitate to both old, both young. And to try and see if we could do something in terms of the nostalgia, in terms of the old school. I'm a fan of old school, Calypso and Soca as well. And for my event, I actually had Beckett. So with that said, yes, we do try to incorporate things that the older heads would like, but to fuse it, which is what I try to do, to try and make it somewhat unique, but different, you know? Sorry, unique and different. So I try to kind of get that unique feel, because that's the thing. Everybody has an event. And it's the usual party. You come in, you pay away in, you buy your drinks, you get a table and you watch or listen to music and you mingle. But that, for me, I do that all the time. Every time you go somewhere, it's the same thing, it's the same thing. How do I make my thing stand out? How do I make it different? And that's the thing. Utilizing what you have at your disposal and making it seem like a novelty is the trick. For instance, a lot of persons in the tourism sector have visited countries and they always promote the white sand beaches. We have black sand beaches too. We could make black sand beaches cool. So I think that mindset kind of helps in terms of trying to put your product forward and promoting it as such. A lot of persons just want to throw the event for throwing the event's sake. For me, it was more of a passion project, something I had wanted to do since 2019. But it was just to find the right timing, the right slot. And it was, for me at the time, I was outside of the island. So it was kind of difficult to try and do something like that, not being here, you know, seeing what is going on the ground. So as I returned home, I said, well, let me try and give it a shot. And that's how the Solaris breakfast, shameless plug, that's how the Solaris breakfast party came about. So, but part of it was because I experienced it and I wanted to bring something like that here. But the execution of it, I think, is, I mean, this was a first time event. So based on the feedback that I think we got, I think a lot of persons enjoy themselves. So I think they will be looking forward for it next carnival, next Vincy Mass. But I think, and I had mentioned it earlier, it was a passion of mine. I really wanted to do it. And despite not having any startup capital, no big set of sponsors and all of that, you know, I still tried to put forward my product with what I had available at my disposal. So that's the difficult part in terms of where we come head to head with comparing a private promoter's event and the CDC's event. Now, CDC has made steps, especially when we spoke with Rodney, in terms of doing things to entice persons to come and listen to Pan again, for instance. And they would have done other things that would improve some part of their product. But remember, they have in terms of an advantage or a step ahead that we as private promoters won't have. But these are things I came up, you know, that I understand the actual value and the gravity of the situation in terms of what you have going ahead without doing your own thing from scratch. So, I mean, for me, that was a learning curve. A lot of things I learned in terms of how it works, how the mechanism is, how Vincentians itself how we deal with our events in comparison to others. So some things we are up, some things we still have a lot of work to do, in my opinion. But as I said, because I really wanted to and I had a passion for it, is basically what jumpstart and got me to actually have a successful throwing of my event. So I know I was all over the place a bit, but I tried to guide it as much as I remembered it. And, you know, I haven't like a flight of ideas, but I still wanted to try and get everything out in terms of my experience. Throwing an event with no startup versus CDC who already have sponsors and, you know, a whole committee in place and all of that to do what they have to do. And with that said, I think that with what they have, the resources that they have available to them, I think that they could more than achieve what they want to achieve in terms of perpetuating the culture. I mean, as I said, making it cool again.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Brown. So Jim, where you sit in the diaspora, I mean, we've been hearing for Carnival 2023, flights were booked, you know, persons came home in big numbers. There's obviously the situation where hotel rooms were booked. From your position where you're in the diaspora, and having worked, I think you also had done some work with the Vincy picnic, something in Canada. What do you see from the diaspora as persons coming home? What would they want? What are they looking forward to when they come home in terms of patronizing an event in St. Vincent and the Grenadines from your position where you where you are there? What are the expectations?
Easy. One of the things again. Thanks, Gary, for that. A lot of people want easy access, and I say easy access in the sense if you're coming home for Carnival, you don't want to go lining up to buy no ticket for nothing. You don't want to go around the park Carnival night, Soca, whatever you're going there, and line up for hours trying to get a ticket or being pushed because when you come out from out in North America, you're not into the push thing, and you don't want to go home and line up and being pushed or that kind of stuff. So easy access to to the events, and I say easy access. Another thing I look at people might be looking at is how do you get could you get a passport and I say a passport to all the events. Like I buy my stuff before I leave Toronto. I'm going home for Carnival. I want to make sure I got all my stuff ready. So could I buy my ticket from before I get home? If I'm staying at a hotel, could I show up at the hotel and is there a package that I get because I'm staying at the hotel? If I'm staying at a guest house or something, I need a package or something that you get. So you come with all you're going to get all your stuff, as I said, before you leave. And as far as the events are concerned, the Soca, the Carnival Committee, Development Committee have their special shows. I don't think that there should be no big competition along those special shows. I am not saying that you can't have your private shows and that kind of stuff because that is important. It's very important. The market is there for it. But on the night of, let's say, Soca Monarch, you don't want to have a Soca Monarch happening in town and another man saying, oh boy, let me go up street and have another big Soca Monarch, something competing with the CDC and having that big competition. So I think basically when you're going home from out here, you're looking for easy access to your stuff. You need to be able to buy all your stuff, make sure you have your stuff. If I show up at Victoria Park to buy a pass, I could get a pass for the whole season, a season pass or something. Or I could get it before I leave here that I know when I get home I have it. So I don't have to go running up and down looking for it.
That's very clear, very clear. And there's also a question that is coming from the audience. And I think Suzette, if I'm following, there's a question has been asked, Suzette.
Yes, and it says private events do not have to be at carnival time. Pan, Calypso, creative dance, drumming all have a place in our development. So I guess it's really your thoughts on that.
So maybe we can have Kevin responding.
Dr. Brown, exactly. He also has that under his portfolio.
Yes.
As an event promoter.
The man is part.
Okay. No, just in terms of clarity of the question, they're saying that they're saying that Pan and so could be done outside of Carnival. That's the question.
I think it's their thought. Yes, their thought. Listen, let me try again. Private events do not have to be at Carnival time around Pan around Carnival time. They were saying that perhaps outside of Carnival, what they're suggesting, you can have all of these around, like where you have like Pan, Calypso, creative dance, and drumming, all of that. Okay, so this goes back to the point that was made earlier by Mr. Lewis in terms of private events having their event the same time as a carnival event. I have mixed feelings for both. Let me say why. For instance, if to keep the culture alive, you don't want to compete with a show that needs assistance. So it's difficult to say, let's have a private promoter show on the same time you're having Junior Calypso or some other event that is essential to the culture of Carnival. With that, I agree. But then we have to look on the flip side. Even if somebody has an event the same night as Soca Monarch, it is kind of difficult to compete with Soca Monarch even if they may draw with some of the crowd, it might not be the same crowd, one. Two, when you have 10,000 persons in park and your event has 200, how much of a dent are you really putting? Would those same 200 persons have gone to see the Soca Monarch? So it's relative, because a show like Soca Monarch that's already established in St. Vincent, which is the biggest CDC show, let's face it, it's hard to kind of try and compete with that show as a private event. But when it's a show that's not as strong, when you do have an event at that same time, I think, yes, it would affect that event. So I don't know if I've answered the question, but I like to play devil's advocate at times and look at both sides. Overall, part of me, I don't think that you should have shows at the same time as a carnival event. But that is to say that you need now the CDC to step up their game. Because now if you have a show and it's the only show that we have to go through and you holding us ransom to this show, then at least it should be a good show, you know? So that's I don't know if I force person to look at it from that point of view, but you know, if you are saying that this is the only show I can attend, then make it as good as a private promoter would make this show, or at least give the private promoter some input to help you to put on a better show. But then if your show is strong already, I don't think anyone competing on the same night would affect it. But I do see if the show is not as strong and you go and put a show on, then you may take away patrons, or if not all the patrons that they would have gone to see that show. You would have probably run away with those. But again, there are different crowds. And from this carnival, we have actually seen where there were multiple events on the same day and all were well attended. But as I say, perspective is everything.
Interesting.
But
And
it's kind of unfair sometimes, but it's how you look at it.
Jim alluded to some very important points. I mean, when we have a lot of visitors who come in, you're looking at efficiency. Maybe the fact that they've been accustomed, you know, probably ordering a ticket online and having, you know, he made some very important points there. You know, so these are things that maybe that's why you would find that some of the private events are attracting a lot of persons. And then the movement of people is one that's quite interesting, because if you do have that significant momentum of persons moving, then their taste, their variety, when they come to Vincy Marks, the expectation is something that you have to satisfy, or else they probably might, you know, on social media, they, you know,
okay. So I get what you're saying, because what you're touching on is something Karen had mentioned earlier. Now, we can't just be myopic and just think Vincy Mas in the sense that we want to do things for the culture, to push the culture. Yes, we do. But she said we are competing with other carnivals. The question is, how do we, and sometimes the reality of the situation, which is what a lot of other carnivals are going through. For instance, the Mecca. Trinidad has so many private events and only so little cultural events in comparison to. The majority of persons who travel for Trinidad, face it, they're going for the private events. They're going for party in a spring break style, just to party. That's where the droves are going. And some promoters are trying to now modernize, as I said, the old school to make it modern to those who want to come to party. Now, in terms of the other events, how do you get those to compete with the droves that are coming just to party? That is the trick question that you have to answer. And that's why I always allude to Grenada, who have their culture. Everybody going to Grenada to play jab. There is not, for me, it's similar to our Soca Monarch, where everybody, young, old, I was surprised when I went to see little children and young and old, everybody is out doing the cultural thing that is cool. Everybody wants the black paint. Everybody wants the oil. Everybody wants to witness them with all the different animals, you know, the dead animals and so that they have in their mouth. And it's weird, but it is unique to them. And that is their draw. Think about all the other events that Grenada has, that the other islands do have. But persons, the majority of people, I think, go there for the job. How do we use that now to make our carnival better? I mean, I see a couple things that we have, especially over Trinidad. That's why I always say Vincy Mass is the best. Easily. One, it's more affordable. For what you pay to go to one event in Trinidad, you'll probably spend and go the whole of Vincy Mass comfortably. Two, when you do our road march, for instance, your friends are always involved. So you're not going one, you don't have to choose a band and go one direction, and you don't have enough persons or tickets to go, and then somebody else has to join another band, which goes in a totally different route. The route that we use is right around Kingstown, and if you get lost, you just cross the street and walk backwards. So you can't lose, it's inclusive. You can't lose the persons you're with, you know? So when you come with a group, you will always see a group, you'll always see your friends. And there are other things in terms of the fact that we still keep the cultural aspects of Carnival alive, and we do it so well. Our music, for the past 5 or so years, or 10 years, I might be, on the shooting, has been the best in the Caribbean, point blank. We have nobody, we are second to none. But a lot of it has to do with the music that is also palatable to the other countries. Yes, we have our style of music, which has been a debate from the last carnival. And I do support our uniqueness. But sometimes, if you look at songs that are done in the style that we do it, it is unique to that song. A lot of persons try to copy it, but they don't get the same result. So that's the technical aspect in doing a song that is more local in terms of our styling. But we were the pioneers of Ragga Soca. We coined the phrase power soca. And from what we have put out, those that actually made it through despite the little political music aspect that we have going on have done very well. And even the ones that are not the usual commercial / original Vincy style, those songs do well. I mean, Headways was a big song this year. It is a more local style song, but it's so unique, it's so captivating that it did well, not only on the local market, but it actually went out overseas. But then we have other songs I find this year that didn't make it out. But I mean, I could go on and on about this topic, but that's how I feel about it. We had a lot of big, authentic Vincentian tunes that didn't get the push, that would have been instrumental and destroyed other carnivals in terms of how well they were put together. But that's another discussion for another time. But I think in terms of Vincy Mass, we have a lot to market our mass with. And in comparison to the other carnivals, in terms of all the different aspects of mass, I think we are second to none, especially with our creativity.
And to add to that, you think that the private events, well, we call them private events, but it's all part of Vincy Mass, but they're here to stay. They're here to stay.
Well, it's difficult to have a Vincy Mass without those private events, because whether you like it or not, they draw the majority of the tourists. It's a hard pill to swallow, but they do. In terms of the events that CDC has that do well, we know Soca Monarch is the cash cow. But in terms of the other events, we have mass. Compared to what mass was back in the day, to what mass is now, there was more a love for the creative aspect and creating something out of nothing, creating a masterpiece from what you had available to you. The love was there for that. Now, in terms of carrying on that love for it, it's difficult to see it, because I see a lot of them mention about teaching it in schools, because we're trying to build back, to try to get it back in the youth. The love to build in mass, to creating music, to doing the hard part, I would say, of making Carnival great again. I didn't want to use that phrase, but the hard part about we try to run from the difficult things, but the difficult things is what makes mass. The building, the time spent in the mass camp is a labor of love, but it's not easy. The time spent in the panyard, drilling the song over and over and over. How do you get persons to enjoy that again? It's very difficult to compete, especially seeing that we already kind of gone down a road where a lot of persons want to just come and party. Now, if we end up just being a party capital with just private events and parties, it takes away from what a carnival is. You kind of end up with what, to some extent, Jamaica has and calls their carnival.
All
Because
right.
Jamaica has no local soca artists that is popular per se. There are a lot of dancehall artists who are trying to cash in on the soca acts, but they don't have no original soca monarch. They have no original Ragga soca monarch. No, I mean, I can't say mass building from a local cultural standpoint because it's more pretty mass, it's feathers.
Right.
Hence the reason why I drew the comparison to Trinidad, where Lost Tribe actually won Band of the Year by just modernizing old school mass.
All right. So on that point, definitely well said, well put together. Jim, we'll round off with you. I noticed clock on the wall is saying that we are about that time when we are rounding off. So from the diaspora once again, in terms of shows, you bring to an end this segment.
Let me say thanks to all who take part this evening. Thanks to the organizers, the Ottawa Association for putting this together. It was a pleasure being in the company of so many talented, passionate artists and Vincentians on a whole. I felt like coming into this that I was I was coming into an area where too many stars, if I could use that thing, was ahead of me. But I thank for the time to get to learn. I learned quite a bit this evening and looking forward to more discussions like this, more learning sessions like this, and hope that we could keep it up going forward. Again, thanks to everybody. Thanks to you, Mr. Peters, for holding this down.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Jim, and it was a pleasure.
Gary,
Yes.
yes, I just want to make certain things clear, right? One, CDC embraces private events. Private events are here to stay. It's part and parcel of a Vincy Mass, as it is in other Caribbean countries. The challenge is how we will be able to strike a balance. It is well documented that most of the persons who travel, not only to Simpson Grenadines, but to other Caribbean countries, go there to party. I heard Dr. Brown made an example, and most of the parties are one of the sameness. They just have different names. Some will be inclusive, some will just be, but they basically replicate each other. You go, you have cuisine, it's a fashion show. You get the opportunity to put on their clothes and so on. You get to intermingle, and you have high premium drinks and so on. It's basically the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, it draws people. That in fact the matter. But CDC has nothing against it. There's an act that governs the CDC. The only thing that the act says is that you cannot have a show of a similar type on the CDC is having a show. If you check out the calendar of events, you'll recognize with the number of events, private events, there's no way you can have them without clashes. So a lot of them are held along with CDC shows. But the main point is that the act says you cannot have an event of a similar type. But it is, as we have seen the evidence where all these shows that year after year, there have been an increase in the number of shows. I think they had over 60 something events this time around. It was reported that $4 million was generating ticket sales for private events. That is not me saying that I was in the parliament. Right? And what I want to say to people is that CDC, you see the point I made very early on? There's interconnectivity, and Kevin has made it. And I made it when I spoke about Test cricket and Calypso. Because if you go back in history, and Jim and all will know, biggest show, the biggest show in yesteryear was the Manchga. Calypso finals and King and Queen the bands. That has waned. The only, and I'm going to, Kevin has said it, Soca Monarch is the cash cow. That is common knowledge. But the CDC has responsibility to keep culture alive. CDC will, of course, with new mind, new ideas, have a look at means where they could rebrand or whatever. But fundamentally, Calypso is Calypso. Mass is mass, span is span. But we can't again put our heads in the sand and say, chop our hands in the air and say we can't do anything. That's the point I want us to understand. Yes, the private shows are here to stay. Can there be a way where we have a collaboration, a collaborative effort between private promoters and the CDC to a certain extent? That is something we could only speak about now, but put into action down the road. Are there willing partners? Yes. If you were to do analysis, you will recognize, and they can say themselves, of all the private promoters, that their private shows or all persons have spoken said they were successes. Not one private show have been told a failure. But while CDC may have the capital, CDC normally ends up in the red. Right? This carnival is about showcasing some grenadines. You heard me spoke and not being divisive, we cannot be divisive. It has to be unity. Unity is strength. United we stand, divided we fall. We have to recognize that Vincy Mass is a Vincentian product. And as proud Vincentian, well-intentioned, when I mean Vincent, we should do everything in our power. We are well-intentioned to ensure that Vincy Mass is a success. CDC failing and this failing does not go our country.
Well
Do
said.
we have work to do? Yes, we have work to do. We must never believe we have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. And there are many folks out there who would have good suggestions. And it's incumbent upon us. Of course, the Calypso Association listens. We go on social media, we open up. Anybody want to give us idea? We don't think we have all the answers. We know persons, in fact, who have better ideas than we have. And as far as we can embrace them, we'll embrace them. I want to end by thanking Suzette and our team at SBG Ottawa Association for having the vision to organize and execute this program. And I want to thank all my fellow panelists for a wonderful program. I want to say it was an opportunity for me to meet persons I've never met before. And I think it's the beginning of friendships, and there's an important word here. And that important word is networking. As the president of the Calypso Association, I make it my business on behalf of my organization to try to reach out to Tuco of Trinidad, the Grenada Calypso Association, Dominica, St. Lucia. That is something we have to do. Network as Caribbean people and even people in the diaspora to see how we can get Vincy Mass, enhance the product, get it bigger and better. And of course, how we can get Calypso to move to bigger places. I thank you once more for giving the opportunity to be part of this wonderful program. Good night. May God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, Kaba. And with that being said, I also want to thank the SBG Association of Ottawa for inviting me to host this program. It's been an amazing discussion, meeting all these different persons and so forth, and hearing all the ideas. And I hope a lot of notes were taken. And well, Kaba alluded to that, and that we can go forward from this discussion and make even more productive discussions in the future. Thank you again, Suzette. I'm going to hand over to you to bring this program to a close.
Well, it has been a long day, but it has indeed been a long and a fruitful discussion. I know with time being, I want to thank you all very much because it's a Sunday evening that you have given us your entire evening. This is the first of many series we are going to have. As we said, part of SVG Association mandate is to preserve our culture, both at home and in our native in our adoptive homeland, and we are going to do as much to work with everybody and in across the area where we look at Vincy Mass. We hope for the Calypsonians, say the Ragga Soca and the Power Soca. In my opinion, as I said in my opening remark, Vincy Mass is not a 10 days thing. We should continue in every aspect. So I'm hoping you all going to put out more music. And where we here in the diaspora, where we have festivals, local festival, and even back in our native homeland to where you have the music festivals, whether it be those jazz festival, the blues and everything. I would like to see that they really bring in our artists to be part of that. Gary, as a musician, as jazz, I would like to hear some of these artists' music here, where your band as well take on some of those genres and play the music. It's our product. If we don't continue to use it as fully, then why should the outside do it? Again, thank you all so much. This is, as I said, it's the first. We will continue. Here at SVG Auto Association, we try our best to work. So, Kaba, sure, we'll be talking. For the Calypso, we have funded, provided some funding for the veteran Calypsonians. We'll continue to work with you and to all of you here as well as artists, whatever you have, we want to be in your corner. Dr. Brown, I know you too as a private promoter in that field, where however we can help. One of the things we do here is that we flip our script in terms of giving out scholarship. We used to only give for the academic. We sort of flip it to where we split it and we give bursary, not only for academic, for people who have that appetite for our culture, for kids who cannot afford, parents who cannot afford to put that child to pursue their passion. So with that being said, and thank you so much. It's been a long day, but we'll continue to push our culture there. And to all the artists again as well, you continue, play your music. You all know where to find me, and we will do our part here. And even for some of you artists, as we always said, we know it's marketing. Here the diaspora has a grassroots organization. We don't have that big set of money. We are willing to work with you with your budget. And sometimes if it even to say that, how about if we bring you in and pay for your for your accommodation? Are you willing to work with us so we can get you in? So it's conversation. There's room here to have that conversation. All right. So on that note, I thank you all so much. You guys are family. This is not the first. Again, thank you so much, team Bay Hill News Network, Kankadi Vinabert, Success Radio, Fun City. And Gary, you're amazing host. I don't think I could have pulled this off. And to Noah, thank you so much for streaming all of that. Ozzy, I know you had technical difficulties, but you did your role in the background. And to this, I couldn't say, and to my fellow diaspora, ah, Jim and Carlos, welcome. Carlos, we're gonna have that conversation. Yes, we have to have a Canadian crew home for Carnival. So Kaba, look out for me. I'm on CDC's portfolio. All right, guys. Blessing. Take care. One love.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Susan. Great program, great program. And I know you're capping now. I know you're trying to tie up things at this point. But beyond the carnival, out of carnival, comes so many songs, so many things. But we have so many festivals on St. Vincent and the Grenadines that should lend themselves to build on what the things, the songs and other things that come out of carnival, the various festivals, jazz festival, for example. uh, the jazz festival provides an opportunity to get into fusion jazz using our calypsos. Ultimate Five obviously can use the songs coming out of Carnival. The music festival, the regattas in the Grenadines, all these festivals, 9 mornings, they all provide opportunities to promote our various genres of calypso on St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I see Carnival as the genesis from which we can spring forward for the rest of the year into the next year. And I believe the opportunity is here, and I think we are sort of we're getting into a pigeonhole when we think that Calypso is just about carnival, Pan is just about carnival. And I strongly disagree with that. I played a lot of music today from Antigua and St. Croix and Barbados, Pan music, so a little bit from St. Vincent. None of them, for example, featured anything gospel or religious or anything of that nature. None of them. So it means that I can only play calypso, pan music at carnival time or on special shows, not on a Sunday. I mean, it depends on where you stand. And that's who we are.